everyone, and welcome to There's No Such Thing as Normal, a podcast about neurodiversity, disability, and mental health. I'm Lou, your host, and I'm neurodivergent myself, and I'm also completely blind. So this is another episode in the Education and Neurodiversity series with the amazing Maria. And in the last episode, if you missed it, you need to go and check it out because we talked about noise sensitivity in schools. And it's such a big one that we decided to dedicate a whole episode to it. But of course, noise sensitivity isn't the only sensory challenge. There's all the other senses too. So in this episode, we're going to delve into the senses beyond hearing. So, thinking about lighting, textures and movement, all those sorts of things. So we're going to be delving into the other things. So I am once again with the amazing Maria.
Hello. Thanks for the nice introduction, Lou.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. So we're going to just sort of go through each sense, talk a bit about the challenges associated with that sense and give some potential solutions. So the first one we're going to talk about is visual. So we're going to talk about lighting. So maybe those who are sensitive to maybe bright lights or certain colours. Now, I'm blind, not really my forte here. So I think I'll pass over to Maria to give her perspective on this.
Yeah, so lighting and visual sensitivities can be a really big one. I think for some students, just things that are triggering is, like Lou said, bright lights, or maybe there might be a flickering light, or just kind of display boards can sometimes be really ghastly, full of lots of colour, which of course is nice sometimes, but if it's just everywhere and it can sometimes be quite overwhelming if there's just kind of different colours, different lights, different things going on all over the room. So I think for students with lighting and visual sensitivities, considering the displays that you have in your room is important, and making sure that it's not really overwhelming and that actually the things you are displaying are the really important things. And if it's not important and it's not going to be used, perhaps it shouldn't be on the wall. And I think also just keeping it as calm as possible. If you think about a disco or something like that and you have the bright lights, and the idea of that is to make you feel really pumped and hyped up. And therefore, if you're going to have that in a classroom, the students are not going to come in as you want, nice and calm and relaxed, ready to learn. So, I think an ideal environment is just white walls, calm. But of course, some colour is nice and some displays are really nice, but just really considering the fact that for neurodivergent students, that might be a bit much. But also something that we do here is we consider lighting. So in our classrooms, the lighting is quite low. We also have different coloured lighting in some rooms to just kind of help to create the nice, calm environment. And we have lamps and things like that because it helps to feel calm. It helps to create that nice atmosphere. So thinking about trying not to create super bright lights. And then the other thing is natural light. So of course this can't always be helped, but where possible, having natural light in classrooms and in school buildings just makes it a much nicer place to be.
Perfect. That's some really, really good tips. And there's lots of different things you can do to help. And they might sound simple, but to be honest, a lot of these tips are just straightforward. And it seems like, oh, that's straightforward. What, I hadn't thought of something like that. But it's often easier than you think.
And I think, I'll just add to that I didn't always really used to consider that. Like I didn't realise that sometimes lights or colour can be triggering for certain people. So I think it's just worth pointing out that, ask your students, what do they like?
Yeah, you could almost do a little survey or something, And I know you teachers and all of you, education people are super busy, but a really quick survey. What lighting do you enjoy, or what colours do you like? What do you find overwhelming? And then that could make a big difference. Because again, then you're building the classroom environment around the people that are in the classroom. Makes perfect sense, right?
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your wisdom and insight. Very helpful. Should we go on to temperature and comfort levels around that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a bit cold today, aren't we, Lou?
We are freezing. Something is up with the boiler, and it's like I don't know, I'm surprised there's no penguins coming around. It's just so cold. I'm currently wrapped up in a fluffy blanket. So yeah, we can talk about that.
So yeah, having blankets around is one good tip for in case your boiler does break. Make sure you've got backups.
And lots of tea. But I think it's quite interesting because this comes down to our interoceptive sense, and I won't get too into this, but it's quite a complicated sense because it links to our internal sensations like hot or cold, hungry, thirsty, tired, all those sorts of things. So for some people, it might be that they're really sensitive to changes in temperature and that they find being too hot really dysregulating or really, overwhelming. And again, with the cold, they might find that has a big impact. And to be honest, we all do benefit from being at the right temperature, of course. But for some people, it's particularly overwhelming to not feel at the right temperature. But for other people, they might not notice. So it might be 0 degrees and someone might be in shorts and t-shirt and they might not be quite as aware because they're, struggling to be in tune with that sense. So, everyone is different. For me, I can't handle the heat. Oh my goodness. Oh, the heat makes me feel so awful. I just feel so irritable. So just no, no, to be honest with you, I know it's crazy and a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I'd rather be in the cold than in the heat, really. But I think just trying to keep things consistent, again, having blankets for if it's cold and, fans, or if you're really lucky, air conditioning. But I know not lots of places in the UK don't have air conditioning. But if you're listening in, I don't know, a regularly hot country, then you might have some lovely air conditioning. But whatever is around, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe opening windows as well. I mean, it just seems really obvious, but it is maybe even just asking, right, how's everyone feeling in the class? Are we all hot enough? Are we cold? Are we cool enough? Just checking in. I think that's literally what it is, just checking in, asking how people are feeling. That's the best way to get it right because, we're not mind readers as humans and we're also different. That just ask, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And where you're sat in the class can help as well. So if you've got someone that needs to be hot and someone that needs to be cold, of course, utilise, radiators and windows and things. It sounds obvious, but unless you ask the students, you won't really know.
No, it's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then the other thing, like Lou mentioned about that students might not always know, and they might be in shorts and t-shirt, even though it's freezing outside. So reminding them that it might be a good idea to have a jacket or a coat or the other way round. I have students that sometimes come into class in the summer with a coat on.
Yeah.
And so they do need that little reminder. Actually, are you sure you're not hot? Yeah. So that can help.
And this is slightly off topic, I'll keep it brief, but I'm a bit of a funny one with this because sometimes I'm like really, really in tune with being too hot and it's like the most overwhelming thing. But then on the other hand, sometimes I just feel really edgy and be really just, I don't know, overstimulated and irritable and not quite understand why. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually like sweating. Maybe I should take this jumper off. And I've literally it's mental. I've laid in bed before on a summer's night and I'm like, I can't sleep. Why can't I sleep? And then I'm like, oh, I'm sweating. Right. I must be hot now. But then sometimes I'm hyper aware of being hot or cold. And other times I just don't quite realize that that's the reason I'm feeling a certain way. It's bizarre. It's like I'm not quite realizing that that's associated with how I'm feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, it's really important to remember the students that might struggle with that. They might be really irritated by something and not realize that it's because they're hot.
Exactly. I think that goes beyond just temperature. I'm often absolutely overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, why? And then suddenly realize it's like it's all hiding. It's like, why can't you just be more obvious feelings, please?
Yes.
It's like they're hiding from me.
This does kind of cover one that we'll talk about later, but just uniform policy regarding temperature. I have worked in schools that refuse to let students take blazers off even when it's really, really hot. And that can, of course, cause a lot of issues as well. So please just be flexible with your uniform and allow it to be adapted to help students to regulate their temperature.
It's crazy. That honestly really, really surprises me.
Yeah.
I mean, surely it's a human right. You can't sit there and tell somebody, oh, you're not allowed to take this item of clothing on that is on your body because you're too hot. It takes away people's autonomy and control over their bodies. Why should somebody have to be overheating and really uncomfortable and make themselves potentially dehydrated and headaches and feel horrible just because you want them to wear uniform? No, that isn't okay.
Yeah.
No.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
But anyway, that hopefully is not something that many people do.
No,
So let's move
very
on
much
for that
hope
one.
not. No, definitely not something we want to be happening. So yeah, on to smell. Lots of people do have sensitivities around smell, or particular smells can be really bad. Schools can be smelly places. I mean, especially secondary schools. I mean, we all know what happens to teenagers, right?
Absolutely.
And aside from that, you've got people are always, well, probably to cover up the smell, people are always spraying really strong perfumes and deodorants that get right up your nose, and oh, it's horrible. And then you got canteen smells. I mean, imagine, I don't know, 10 different foods all cooking at once. That's going to make quite a pong. It's just crazy. And then you've just got, I don't know, cleaning chemicals and the toilets. Schools are smelly places.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's lots of different things. Yeah, stinky schools.
What do you think from a student's perspective that schools can do to help with those things? Because obviously some of it's really hard to control, but there's probably things
really
that
hard.
can be done to help support students that might have these sensitivities.
Well, I would say that, well, there are a few things. Number one, the things that can be controlled, like, for example, the toilets. If a student finds the toilets to be really, unbearable, and again, it's not just the smell. Toilets are noisy. There's hand dryers. There's lots of different people just everywhere, crowded. Not great. School toilets, queuing. It's not really much of a break. And I know a lot of people would say that, but, waiting around in an overstimulating toilet. And again, I see this a lot. People, autistic young people just literally not going to the toilet all day at school because they just can't go in the toilet. Don't blame them, but that can lead to urinary tract infections, and it can be really bad for you, and it's just not very healthy to hold in your wee all day. So it's really important that, if a student's finding the toilets overwhelming, not just for the smell, but that they're allowed to use the disabled toilet because they're well within their rights. So I'd say that's the solution to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The food situation, again, quite difficult. I mean, having somewhere to eat that's not smelly, like an additional support room. I know lots of schools and colleges offer spaces for those with additional needs to sit somewhere that's not smelly. And again, canteens are noisy. I never ate in the canteen. I could not tolerate it, allowing, again, we talked in the last episode on noise about leaving 5 minutes early for corridors. Again, maybe being able to go into the canteen early just to get the food sort of before everyone else goes in and it's complete chaos, which helps with the noise sensitivity and overload as well as that.
Yeah, absolutely. How about, so in classrooms, I think just trying to get a bit of airflow in can really help. Like, it seems obvious, but yeah, between classes as well. I used to have, if you have certain age groups of students, when they then leave, just quickly trying to get the windows open, trying to get it nice again before people come in. Yeah. And then we use smell here as a way of relaxation as well. So it can be a really helpful tool. So for example, often in the afternoons, I will use a diffuser and put some nice smelling relaxation essential oils on in the classroom, and it helps everyone to feel really calm after lunch, and helps to kind of set the right atmosphere.
Again, it all does come down to personal taste, because what one person finds relaxing, another person might hate. And I had an idea around maybe people having something, if they are sensitive to smell, it's a really good technique where you have something with you, if possible, that you do like the smell of, because you might be sensitive to smell, but generally I imagine there would be something that you like. It might be a certain, I don't know, perfume maybe, or like a lavender essential oil, or anything that you find that you like. Again, one, that's calming, but two, it can help to mask any smells that you really don't like. So it might be a particular perfume you really like. And then if there's an unpleasant smell, you know that you've got that. It's almost like if it's noisy, then you'd put your headphones on or something. It's almost the equivalent, but for smells, something that's overwhelming you and you really can't tolerate, knowing that you've got your own safe smell with you that you can go to.
That's really great advice. And also communicating with your teachers about it, because if there's a certain seat, for example, in your classroom that's really triggering, speaking to your teacher after lessons and just explaining what your smell sensitivity is can really
100%.
help. Yeah, and because they should be helping you to cope with that.
Yeah, and everyone's so different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right, let's go on to this one then. Textures and fabrics. So sort of tactile sensitivity. Now, what's going to come up here? Uniform, of course it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've kind of mentioned it already, but certain people have tactile sensitivity, meaning that particular fabrics or materials cause a lot of discomfort. For example, for me, I literally live in leggings and baggy t-shirts, jumpers, and then in the summer, comfortable material shorts and again baggy t-shirts. I can't bear anything that's too scratchy, itchy seams, anything that's too tight. It needs to be stretchy and flexible for me. Now, uniforms are one size fits all. Students must wear this, and this, with some exceptions. For example, you can either choose between tights and skirt or trousers, but again, it's very, very fixed. And some schools are stricter than others. My school, thankfully, were okay because we didn't have to wear any blazers or ties, and they were quite good. They weren't too obsessive about it. But, there are some schools where you're having to wear blazers and ties. I mean, again, it comes down to reasonable adjustments. I understand that, you want students to wear this uniform, blah, 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 but it's one size fits all. And guess what? We're not all the same. So there needs to be a bit of flexibility. It might be that somebody can't tolerate the feel of a tie. Maybe they can go without that tie, because guess what? The world isn't going to fall down because somebody can't wear a tie. Also, could they just wear a different tie that looks basically the same but might be a different fabric? Because schools are really funny about, it's got to have the logo on it, or it's got to be the exact thing. Why can't it just, I don't know, be, as long as it looks the same? Like, for example, with the polo top, what if the polo top's itchy? Can't they just wear a polo top that basically looks the same color but maybe it doesn't have the logo on it? Again, is it the end of the world? Because, and I totally get it, I think the main thing for uniform is so that it creates what's the right word? So that people don't feel under pressure to wear certain clothes, and it doesn't, it avoids competition or bullying, because certain students might be wearing designer clothes and other students might not. So I get that. It's to prevent bullying and it's to make sure that everyone feels equal. But again, it's trying to, avoid those things whilst also creating other issues. So again, I just think that there needs to be flexibility. Although uniform at school was not too bad for me, I remember the PE socks. Oh my goodness, they were so uncomfortable and they were tight, and they were, I never wore them, and I'm so lucky because nobody ever noticed. I suppose nobody was ever looking at my feet, but I got away with that. But, if they challenged me, then I would have been in a really awkward position. I mean, I survived not wearing those PE socks and nobody ever noticed. And I get that it's just socks, but if somebody's really struggling with something, there has to be scope for flexibility under the Equality Act and disability laws. They have to make reasonable adjustments, and I think that's reasonable. Anyway, Maria, what's your take?
Absolutely.
I've rambled on long enough.
Oh, yeah. I think you've made some really great points, but I think my key thing would just be, how are we preparing our young people for the workplace, for their futures? And at the end of the day, there is absolutely no workplace that's going to make students wear a certain type of sock. Like, exactly. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
it's mad.
That's the thing that I would really, campaign, I guess. And the other thing is, I've been in experiences before where you know, teachers have been made to give behaviour points for students not having the correct uniform or having their shirts untucked and things like that. And actually, that can also be to do with sensitivity, like the comfort of having a shirt untucked and things. And it just feels silly because it feels like it's all about control rather than support. And yeah, what are we doing to actually support our young people to be successful instead of just controlling them?
Exactly.
And so I think that's a big takeaway for teachers and schools. I think it is getting better, but I still think that there's probably a lot of places that have a bit to learn about that. But Lou, you also had, from the student point of view, some tips maybe for someone that is somewhere that is maybe not very flexible.
Yeah, I think that one thing that can help is potentially wearing something underneath what it is. So, for example, if the polo top has an uncomfortable fabric that's itchy, wearing something else underneath that could help, like a smooth cotton or something. And also, you can get this sort of undercover tape. I've not used it myself, but it's like this very silky, smooth, sticky tape. And I think it's probably waterproof. And you can put it over any seams. So that's useful for any clothing that's uncomfortable, not just for school uniforms as well. I wanted to say something going back to the thing around, you know, control and teachers always telling people off for not wearing it right. I think that teachers could spend the time that they would save telling people off about their uniform or whether or not they're wearing it right, training and understanding sensory needs. I think the time saved would be valuable time that could be spent on learning about sensory needs.
Yeah,
and I do
absolutely.
get it. I mean, you know, my mum works in a school, and I know she's always talking about the girls that often have the skirts like right up. And again, that is not related to sensory.
Well, I think, yeah, that's different because that's not due to a sensory need, is it?
Exactly.
You know?
So I'm not saying don't ever tell people about the uniform, especially if their skirts are basically up to their heads. But I'm talking about the way, you know, they might be wearing it because of sensory needs is a different thing to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we move on to our final one?
Yeah, if you're still with us, thank you. You've done well. But yeah, fidgets and movement needs, all those sorts of things. So yeah, I think that we're getting better, but basically if a student needs sensory aids in the classroom, like fidgets or wobble cushion or weighted lap pads or whatever they might need, please allow them within reason, as long as it's not disrupting, you know, as long as they're not having like really I don't know, noisy things that are going to be disrupting the rest of the class. Okay, if they need that particularly noisy fidget, then there should be space for them to use that particularly noisy fidget. But you know, if they need to use these to help them concentrate, then allow them, because you wouldn't say to someone, oh, you can't wear your glasses, or oh, you're not allowed your wheelchair. It's the same. You don't tell people that they can't have sensory aids, because I think people view them too much as toys. And they're like, oh, you know, you're not allowed toys in class. They're not. They're sensory aids because they're helping somebody and aiding them with their sensory processing, concentration, and emotional regulation. I feel really strongly about this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in school, although for the most part everything was okay, I did have this sort of one person that was like, oh, you know, put the toys away. And I was like, well, they're not, thinking to myself, well, they're not toys. I really need them. And then I was literally picking at my fingers, and there'd be bits of skin all over the table. And then this person would be like, well, what? Stop picking your fingers. You're making a mess of skin all over the table. And I'm thinking, well, you've just told me I'm not allowed to play with this fidget, and now you're telling me off because there's skin all over the table. What would you rather? Honestly, you know, and my fingers would end up really sore and bleeding, and I'd be stressed. Just please allow the fidgets, please.
Yeah, definitely. And you'd be surprised about how many students will benefit from fidgets. It's not just neurodivergent students and students that maybe have that written on their EHCP. It's so many people really benefit from having fidgets. So we just have them out at all times.
We have literally a box on each table. It's amazing. I think that the science...
Although some people steal them.
Oh, yeah. No, not me.
But no, they are there at all times. And Yeah, I remember once, Lou, years and years ago, I was observed with a class, and part of my feedback was um, that my students weren't engaged enough because one of the students was fidgeting.
What?
Yeah. And I was,
Oh,
so
no.
shocked.
What?
And that lack of understanding just, it's just a bit silly. But I think people
Oh my
are
goodness.
getting better at it, like you said.
Yeah, I was going to say, I
Um,
think that they've genuinely proved that fidgeting can help people focus, and that's
yeah,
even stronger for those who are autistic or ADHD.
absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
for, with ADHD, having fidgets really helps with focus. I mean, I think I did an episode on this anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is just really important.
And
They can really help.
yeah, and I think most of these techniques, and as with any kind of differentiation, if you put it into your classroom, it's not just going to help the people with ADHD and autism, it's going to help everyone. So please try to help the people that are neurodivergent, and it will end up helping everybody.
Yeah.
And whilst we have this chat, I've got a fidget toy in my hand, and I am on a swivel chair.
Yep.
And I'm moving side to side, and
Yep.
that is just keeping me comfortable, keeping me regulated. So I think that it really does help all people. And that moves us on actually with the swivel chair, flexible seating. Now, this can sometimes be hard in schools, but where possible, have you got different seating options? Can you be flexible with this?
Yeah, so we are really lucky because in our classroom we have sort of comfy chairs. Again, though, the chairs in schools are hard plastic. How? I
Horrible.
mean, for anybody, how do you expect people to sit on these horrible hard plastic chairs all day?
Yeah.
Even people in a workplace, they have more comfortable chairs. It's like you're just. It's just not very realistic. And I get it. You can't just have all these kids on big chairs. I do get it. But at the end of the day, there needs to be some flexibility. We have comfy chairs. I've never seen a hard plastic chair in this whole building. I don't even think they exist in this building.
No.
And we have bouncy balls, so an exercise ball. We've got bean bags. We've got a sofa in the corner. We've got a cozy corner. I mean, it's just great. Can you have a little corner of the class that's more comfortable and soothing and settling for those who might need that? Because again, sometimes I'll just go and work on the sofa or work on the beanbag and I'm still in the class. Again, it'll probably keep people in the class because, they're going to feel more comfortable. And how about things like wobble cushions? I mean, they don't take up any space because I get that you can't have all these students on necessarily if there's 30 of them or whatever. You can't have everyone on these giant exercise balls. I get that. But there's things like wobble cushions, which are, they're inflatable cushions. They've got bumps on one side and then they're smoother on the other. They're often used for exercise and yoga and things like that. But you sit on them and they provide really good proprioceptive, which basically means like body awareness. So they can help you feel more aware of your body, which can help you focus. Because if you're able to stay more in tune with your body, your brain follows along and stays in tune. Also can help with the vestibular sense, so being able to move and let out some energy and stuff like that. So also, I've always needed to have regular movement breaks. So here we each lesson 50 minutes, then we have a 10-minute break. Might go outside, get some fresh air, go for a walk. Again, we literally have like the smallest little garden here. It doesn't bother me. I just walk around the garden in a circle. It's fine. And then before that, at my last place, I used to just walk around the corridor because the corridor was just like basically went round in a circle. So it doesn't need to be like, you don't need to have a dedicated amazing walking zone. It's just letting people walk around the corridor, up and down the stairs. That's really good. Outside on the field, just if a person needs movement breaks, again, it's genuinely healthy to be moving. We're humans. We're not robots that sit at desks all day. We're not designed for it. It's bad. And I know a lot of schools actually are getting better. I can't remember what it was called, but I know that there was certain schools that were doing this. I can't remember what it was called, but the kids would come in the morning and then they'd all do some exercise before they'd start the day. And I just think that's so important for everyone. And even if you just say, right, let's all have a movement break and get everyone to stand up and just jump around for a little bit and move your arms around and just get moving, because we all need that. We need to be moving. That's what we're designed for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's all really good advice. I think if you're in the classroom, also some students will find it really hard to be kept sat, even if it's for 45 or for 50 minutes. For some students, that's too much. So just allowing them the space to actually get up and move when they need to.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard with a big class, but if you've got someone that has that need, you know, seating them at the back so that they feel like they can get up and walk around.
Otherwise, someone might feel a bit awkward about just getting up and walking around and things like that.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes when I'm working, I stand, stand at my desk.
Standing desks.
And people do that all the time in offices. So, yeah, we should be allowing students to do that in class. Because apart from all this, the sensory needs, it's also just bad posture.
It's a really big issue.
You know, it's leading the next generation just having awful back pain and bad posture, and
it can affect everything from breathing to digestion. Don't get me started. I'll end up in another ramble.
Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole.
No, we won't, because I will be there a while. But yeah, it's just it's not great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I think that was quite a big one, wasn't it?
That was.
Yeah,
really good.
Whiz through it.
Really important stuff. Really appreciate if you listen to this, and please share, because the more people that learn about this stuff, the better, and the world can be even more neurodivergent friendly, and that's basically what we're aiming for. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with our next episode.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.